Production quality.
That is production quality. Hey, folks, we are live. It's SVT time. Welcome. It's Tuesday. I know it's been a while. Tuesday, July 22nd. This is episode 87 of SVT time. I say it every time. They will keep on doing it till they throw us out. But Dom, how you doing, buddy? Welcome.
Great, doing great.
Awesome. And we have I call him an inside guest. So this everybody please welcome Arthur Gagnier. I'm sure you saw Arthur. How you doing, buddy? Thank you.
Hello. Hi, big time fan, long time fan, first time caller. Glad to be here.
Nice.
Thank you for doing this. So for anybody that's just joining us, and especially anybody that happens to have a Heritage amp or a head or a cab or it came through Arthur's hands. Arthur, would I be safe in saying you run the Heritage shop in Union City, like everything that has to do with Heritage there?
Yep, especially now. We've got pretty much 100%, 24 hours a day, all Heritage, all the time.
All Heritage, all the time. Exactly.
You driving to work? Is that the mantra? You're like all Heritage,
all Heritage,
all Heritage, all the time.
Or if I really want to date myself, it's like the old Dunkin' Donuts commercial. It's like time to go make the Heritage, time to go make the donuts. But anyways, this is all part of our series of we want to introduce people, everybody that works at Ampeg, everybody that works at Yamaha Guitar Group. Just be able to put a face with a name and show you guys like first of all, we're not as big as you may think we are. Yeah. But like there's real people here that work and put these things together, and we love what we do, and we want you to be able to communicate with us through a format like SVT time or through our support board on our website or and
when we're talking Heritage, by the way, we're talking made in the States.
Yes.
We have a Heritage line,
right.
Which is right now let me get this right. The Heritage SVTCL, the 50th anniversary SVT, which is right behind me, and corresponding cabs are the 410 HLF and the 810 AV as well as the 810E.
That's right.
Yeah. So Arthur's in charge of with his team of putting together all of these in the States.
Yep.
And that's what delineates Heritage from our other product families. Just to for everyone.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that too. Kind of what makes a Heritage versus what makes just a classic CL. But first, before we get into that, Arthur, what's your background? Like, I know we were talking a little bit about this before we went live about your parents being music teachers, and so just give us a little background on yourself.
Yeah, I've like you said, my parents are both music teachers. They have been pretty much my entire life. They're both retired now, but my mom taught almost about 30 years at that one school. So it was kind of incredible. She got to the point where she started receiving students of former students who had now grown up and then came back, and she's real big. Especially, actually, her school is in Union City, just down the street. I went to high school here, so we're all very local. It's kind of cool that when we move the warehouse back here to come home and, see all the stuff that's familiar to me. But, I like I said, doing music my whole life. I was originally a drummer because in fourth grade, they started out handing the band slips out. And, originally I wanted to be a saxophone player, because I was thinking about like Tequila, that all those awesome saxophone lead lines. And right. By the way, if you haven't watched the documentary yet, chef's kiss.
I have not. Okay.
So very good.
Okay.
Shout out to Paul Rubens. Rest in peace.
Nice.
But and so I really wanted to, and the teacher, apparently a lot of people felt the same as I did. There was a lot of saxophonists, and she mentioned that, she didn't have anyone to do drums. And so I was like, I'll go ahead and take a shot at it, So that's where I got started. And I was actually the only drummer in the band, which was an interesting thing to try and solve when you were, probably less than 4 feet high. I mean, how old
Yeah.
are fourth graders these days? They're pretty
Yeah.
young. I don't even remember. But
Yeah.
we had to formulate a drum kit out of the many pieces of the concert band. And so I don't know if anyone is familiar with a concert bass drum, but they're just about as tall as a little boy. And so we set that up on stage, and it was a little kick pedal underneath it, and I had the snare and all the stuff, had a little bag of mallets and stuff. So I had to do the whole thing. That was it was kind of like a trial by fire, but like I said, I'd been already familiar with music, so it was kind of not too big a deal. And then I started. I found a guitar in the band room in like 8th grade. I was like, "Hey, what's going on with that guitar?" And he's like, "You want it?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll take it." So that was my first foray into guitar, which is why I actually, small segue, but my first job actually wasn't with Ampeg; it was with Line 6. I originally got hired as the guitar tech for the James Tyler Variaxes. So if you've also played a James Tyler Variax, chances are it was me or one of my guys who set it up.
That's right. That's right. Man.
So
now,
that was one of my first projects coming on to Line 6 pre-Ampeg, as well as a tester, actually.
Very cool.
For the Tyler Variax, or really? Oh, cool.
VTVs, the PAs, and the M20D mixers.
Wow. Okay.
I still use an M20D mixer.
Arthur, so when you were in school, was your mom and dad your teachers as well? Like,
they actually weren't. We lived in Pleasant Hill at the time.
Okay.
When I was going to elementary school, I didn't move to Union City until high school. But luckily never had to have that until I got into the same district. And in 8th grade, when I was in Union City, my dad was the choir teacher. So that was the only time I ever had one of my parents as a teacher. Thankfully, I've heard horror stories. I've heard great things too. But it's one of those things. I'm sure they probably didn't want to have to deal with me either.
Yeah,
my mom was an 8th grade science teacher, and I was so sorry for her because that age group too is it's tough.
It's brutal.
It's tough.
But I gotta say, like you just describing your mom too. I mean, like having kids of previous students that is a true Mr. Holland's Opus story right there, But the other thing I wanted to mention is like, and out of 87 episodes that we've done of SVT time, generally when it's an artist that's on, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to say it's a 50-50 chance that they were either brought up in a school music program by a teacher that took an interest, or a teacher that just was like, that really cared about their students in their program, or the other 50% was they were brought up in a household that just listened to music all the time. Mom and dad always spun records. And so, I mean, hats off to your mom and dad for raising a generation or multiple generations of musicians, because we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the school system bringing kids in and doing this. So,
totally.
Yeah, I mean that in all sincerity. Like anybody that's a music teacher out there, whether you're in the public school system or you teach privately, you have my utmost respect and thanks for doing that.
It's a tough job. Being any kind of teacher, I think that's why I sit here, because the amps, they're nice and quiet until you turn them on. And, I get to teach them something, and they don't have to, talk back or whatever, because I'm sure I know the type of student I was, and I'm just imagining if, I feel sorry for some of the teachers who had to deal with me as a young man.
and Dom's mom as well, I'm sure,
educated in the music space, this doesn't leave me wherever I go, or my studio, whatever. This is like from 2004 and the Louis Armstrong Jazz Award. And it's like, of anything that I've ever accomplished, this just nice. Nice.
The Louis Armstrong Jazz Award.
That's nice. Awesome. Rest in peace, Terry Lucas.
When's yours from?
2004.
Yeah, mine's 84.
Yeah, it's fun. We stuck.
That is so funny. Anyways, this isn't about us. This is about Arthur. And so when did you start with Well, I should say, when did you start with Line 6, and then when did you take over doing the heritage stuff, Arthur?
So in Line 6, I started in 2010.
Okay.
It was either very shortly before or shortly after the launch of the JTVs. And honestly, I had never even heard of a Variax up until then, and so I was gung ho to get in and start, repairing guitars and doing setups and stuff. I'd already tinkered a bunch on my own. Like I said, that I guess where you could come back to the guitar in the band room, it was a hunk of junk for sure. And I think that's where I got started, repairing guitars. Literally from the first guitar I had to fix it to make it work in order for me to be able to play it. So that's kind of where all this stuff culminates and ends here with me doing this cool stuff with Line 6 and Ampeg. But yeah, so I got that gig in 2010, and man, I think we made a lot of guitars. They're few and far between out in there, but I think between myself, before the end of it, we had set up well over 25,000 guitars.
Wow.
So that was a great experience for me, because I had gone from being basically a fiddler to basically a professional over the course of 10 years. Because it's like, what are you gonna do? You're setting up guitars day in, day out.
Yeah.
That was fun.
That's great.
A lot of learning experience, a lot of tools of the trade, and things that cross over into Ampeg, especially when dealing with cosmetics and things like that. When you're making one of the most expensive things we make, like cosmetics are number one. That's part of the reason why you're doing it. That's part of the reason why you're having us doing it, and not 15 guys in a different factory.
Yeah.
And I imagine setting up ATVs too. That's not just a guitar setup. That's you're learning guitars and a lot of science on top of that.
A little bit, yeah. I learned a lot about basically if you've ever taken a JTV apart, it's not just pots and switches inside there. There's basically a tiny little computer, and we've taken those things apart. I've always said I never got a chance to try it out, but I've always said that I probably could take one completely apart and put it back together blindfolded, just because we've done it so many times. That might be fun to do sometime, but.
Do you think you can do that to an SVT?
Oh, ooh.
Wow.
That's a good point.
We should have a challenge.
Or dropping it on your foot, right?
Yeah, right.
That might actually be a fun challenge.
Yeah.
Probably. It's one of those things too. It's the order of operations once you've done as many as we have. In fact, we've done quite a lot. I do have the actual number. At least of 50th that we've done to date.
Okay.
From just this morning, we completed 2 this morning, and so I've got that final number, and so maybe we'll have some fun with that.
Yeah, we're gonna have some fun with that. Yeah. Man, that now, I a buddy of mine, a guitar player that I work with, he didn't make a not a job or a side hustle out of it, but he was buying up a lot of the Line 6 Variaxes and gutting them and installing the electronics in friends' guitars. So if you had like a Strat or a PRS, he would actually take the guts from a Variax and install it. And for the most part, they worked all right, but but you're right. It's, you got to know the inner workings of what a Variax does. And of course the JTVs and man, now, Ampeg was purchased by YGG in 2018. And shortly thereafter, I don't know the exact timeline, but I know, with that purchase, myself and Haji, who used to run the Heritage Pro. Haji was the Heritage guy back in the Loud era. Yeah.
Shout out.
What's that?
I said shout out to Haji, who I think.
Yeah, I'm sure Haji's listening, because I know he just commented on Randy's when's the next Pro coming out, and the A Pro, and I'm assuming that's Haji that had said it's come and gone. But so I know there was a time Haji went up to Union City. It was actually San Leandro when the factory was first in San Leandro, and then you moved to Union City. He came up and basically trained everybody on how to build a Heritage, correct?
Yep. Yeah, that was a great time. I mean, you could imagine we were all buzzing with excitement because this is like Ampeg's a big name. No matter which way you splice it, always has been. Especially in the American guitar market, who is literally a niche for bass specific. I mean, and so we were both pretty ecstatic. Me and my guy at the time. There was only two of us, and in fact, it was Heritage that really got the need for us to have some more people, because at the time we were still doing guitars and we were still doing Heritage, and so we had to make sure that we had enough guys to split the load. So I think at one time we were a team of 6, and that was the largest we've ever been. But that was during the early days, when all the excitement's building about the new 50th. I mean, especially when the 50th came out in early 2020 or late 2019. I mean, we were jamming. We couldn't build those things fast enough.
I couldn't give them away fast enough. I mean, I couldn't sell them fast enough. That's what I meant to say. Sorry, Dave. I know Dave's listening.
I wouldn't be surprised if he took our entire 1030 team and was like, "Let's go watch him and make fun of him," because I'm supposed to be there.
He might be. There he is. Nice. He's already commented. Oh, Dave.
I played hooky from the meeting, so sorry, boss.
Dave, you're next.
That's right.
So, and at that time, it was that the 50th wasn't developed at that point. It was the Heritage, it was the SVT CL, and then the 2 cabs, the A10 and the 410 HLF.
And we were doing the Pro Neo cabs too.
Yeah. Oh, that's right too. Yeah. We were still doing Pro Neo cabs out of San Leandro as well, because at the time Pro Neo cabs were all US built as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's right. That's right. I forgot about that.
That's what I run with my rig, Pro Neo 410s.
You run Pro Neo 410?
Oh yeah.
And then what are you use for a head?
Pro
7.
Nice.
Yeah, so gives me lots of power. I ran with a Yorkville for a very, very long time, and I don't even think Yorkville's around anymore.
Oh yeah, sure they are.
Are they? Good. That's cool.
Oh yeah, Canadian.
Yes, still have that amp. Yeah, here we go. We're bringing it back to Canada. Played that for a real long time. Still have it. But it was one of those things where, it did like everything. And then when I finally got the 7 Pro, I was like, oh my God, this is the Ampeg equivalent of the one that I had, because it did all the stuff that I needed it to. Had the built-in compressor. You could crank up a little bit of the tube gain in that preamp and get some growl in it. And it was just like, match made in heaven.
Yeah. The old Yorkville stuff. I mean, they're pretty much all PA related now. Yorkville and Trainer are I think they're kind of sister companies. Trainer does guitar amps and bass amps, and Yorkville does all pro audio now. But great stuff, all built up in Canada. And I know a couple of pro audio companies around here still run Yorkville line arrays, and never had a problem with them. So,
Arthur, based on Dave's comment, I'm curious. In 2019, because you said that was the heyday of like when the 50th anniversary came out, and those sound like hotcakes. And then 2019 NAMM, did you have a hand in the beast?
We did have a hand in the beast. In fact, it was our team that restored it from its original condition. I guess it had been sitting somewhere. Dino, you might be able to speak more to this, but it sounded like it was just sitting in a warehouse for so many years. And we stripped that guy. Actually, I should give a big shout out to Charles Miguetto. He put the most hours into that thing, and I think it's most of the reason why it came out so good. But that was a big project. I think we had probably 4 or 5 people. It was me, Charles, Ben. Shout out to Ben Frisbee, and AJ Davidson. if you guys are watching, our names are actually on if you take the back badge off the beast and flip it around,
Nice.
our names are on that. And that was intense. I should dig up. I got a lot of pictures from when we were restoring that. I should dig those up, and we can make like a cool little slideshow or something, because that was an undertaking.
I would love to see those photos.
I'm going to share my screen here.
36 by 10-inch cab.
Yeah.
And then powered by a 600 watt, basically 2 SVTs together into one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I have had the pleasure of playing through that thing, and it is a life experience.
Right. And yeah, exactly. And probably, we did as well. Obviously, we could not once we finished it.
Yeah.
And that's also one of those things. We're one of the handful of people who've had a chance to play through something so obnoxious in the best way possible.
So that's what
we had.
Dave said it took 16 of you guys to lift it over. I was always wondering how that thing got in and out of because you guys had to put it in like a semi truck, right, to bring it down to Nam.
We did. We had a special crate built just for it. And we basically got it up on forks. We wrapped the forks, and we had this big roll of foam, and wrapped the fork. I mean, it was like this. We had to get it underneath, and then we had spotters on each side, and we kind of just, as carefully as we could slide. I mean, it probably took us maybe an hour and a half just to get it into the box, because we're, every inch we're trying to make sure it fits, and then it's this big wooden crate with sharp edges and stuff. And oh man, it was luckily it was done very safely, and nobody got it, but it was, oh man, it was perilous. We just spent all that time. I mean, months had gone into bringing that thing back. And
we have the crate out in the warehouse, so if we ever need to ship, in fact, Dave, just so you guys know, we need to ship it back to you guys because it needs to be re-Tolex, because all the old Tolex is peeling off of it. But we do have the crate.
You said we want it in white Tolex now.
Yeah, we want it in white Tolex now.
There you go.
Now that poor amp, there were 2 of them built. There was one in AV Cosmetics, so it looked like an old vintage Ampeg, and then there was the Beast, the black and white one. The blue and silver one went to Paris, France, a studio in Paris, France. And then the Beast, and at the time we also had, it was a crate guitar amplifier. It was basically 2 Blue Voodoo 300 watt heads. I don't know what happened to that, but these amps were they were laying on their back in the warehouse up in Seattle. We didn't know what to do with them. Nobody wanted them. We couldn't sell them. We couldn't refurb them. They were just kind of falling in disrepair. People were just throwing stuff on top of them, just like they were basically a storage unit for, it was sad because these things were like, they're pretty amazing things.
They really,
it is something to behold.
Yeah,
you really don't grasp. In fact, it wasn't until we stood the thing up, because we worked on it on its side and on its back and stuff like that. And you never really get the scale of it until it's standing above you.
Yeah.
And
like we put somebody up on forks just to twiddle the knobs and stuff. You know what I mean? There's a guy sitting up in a cherry picker and be like, all right, turn up the bass a little bit. Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Right.
Yeah. And I remember the first time that was being loaded into NAMM back when it was St. Louis Music. And the scariest part is when it's laying on its back and these guys start standing it upright, because at any time, if somebody slipped or somebody fell or somebody lost, that thing could literally fall back and kill somebody. It's that big of a cabinet, So it was like watching these guys and we weren't allowed to do it. The union had to come in and do it, but setting that thing up, man, it was, I just read Dave's comment. Dave has disconnected as soon as I said,
right.
So,
I remember, because I don't want to break any NDAs, somebody had come into our headquarters to sample it. And I had played through it at NAMM a few times, but when they came in to do this, I kid you not, it was the first time in my life that I actually had vertigo and couldn't figure out like what was what because it was so loud and the frequencies are so low. You just like your ears were just freaking out. Like you had to like step out of the building and just like take a breather every once in a while. It was so intense.
Yeah.
When we plugged that thing up, we had people coming out of the building surrounding the warehouse to see what was going on, because and it was interesting because at that time our warehouse was right next to the BART train, and for people not in the Bay Area, the BART train is our subway system, which is technically not sub anything; it's mostly elevated above, and so it went straight across, and we didn't hear a train that day when we were testing the amps, so it was quite intense.
Did you guys ever throw any pedals through it, or was it always just pure beast?
No, it was always just pure beast. But what we did throw through it is actually what I had in the shop at the time was Variax bass. So that was at least cool. So we at least got to turn the dial and play some.
That's pretty
play
cool.
some different styles of bass through it, and it was really cool. Everyone's got a couple of pictures. Like I said, I've got one, of me standing next to it, and I'm just like, beep, beep, beep. I look like a little Lego guy standing next to a real one.
Yeah.
That was a fun time.
That's crazy.
A lot of work went into that because, like you said, it was in disrepair. We stripped the whole thing. Filled all the stuff. A lot of the because that frame sticks up. There was a bunch of crunched edges. We redid that, and I say we. Most of it was Charles. Again, shout out Charles. He never let me live it down. I probably would get a text message later and be like, "Bro." So he spent a lot of time on that thing, and but it was, once it was all done, it was like, wow, we did that.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, I mean, you really did, and I forget how old it was when you guys got a hold of it, but I was so happy to see it kind of redone and people. I want to say it was mostly Susan and Marcus at Line 6 at the time that kind of said we really need to do something with this. Like we need to honor this thing and do what's right by it. And now it's in our museum in Calabasas in our office, along with a couple other vintage pieces. And I hope we never have to move it again. And if we do, I hope it goes either to an AM show or a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or something like that, because
it truly is worthy of Hall of Fame, I think.
Yeah.
I almost wore my Spinal Tap t-shirt in honor of the beast. I think if Spinal Tap ever got like a Vegas show, that's where the beast should go, because that way it could just live on the stage and probably actually be used. How great of a gag would that be?
Oh man,
it would be the total opposite of the Stonehenge episode.
Right. Yes, exactly.
I wanted one of those little micro VRs, and Dino sent me this friggin' beast that's 32 feet tall. So, hey, so let's talk about heritage a little bit. So, and I'll give you my take on it, but I want to hear your take. Whenever anybody asks me what the difference is between a heritage and a classic and the price difference, and is it really worth the extra money? And usually I'll say, well, if something being built in the USA is a value to you versus, a regular manufacturer, I usually will say, and coming from the Harley world, when I'm talking to somebody, the way I describe heritage versus classic is a classic head goes down an assembly line, and employees or factory workers put pieces into that amp as it goes, whether it's tubes or PC boards or whatever, as it goes down the assembly line, versus a heritage amp that sits on a table and a team of people bring the parts to the amp and hand build the amp. And so there's way more attention to detail. Right. At one time, I know there were different PC boards. Like it was a different makeup. It was all the same design, but it was basically just parts that were built there, like double-sided PC board. And I think some of that has migrated from heritage into classic, kind of like kind of like an automotive manufacturer's racing program. Like whatever they develop on the track eventually ends up in their production cars.
Yeah.
Right.
And same thing with it, with Heritage, is some of the things that we do with Heritage does eventually end up in our production heads. But with that being said, Arthur, I want you to explain to people what is actually the difference between a Heritage head and a classic head.
Yeah, like you said, the whole assembly line versus, one thing. It's, probably akin to most highly manufactured things. You get one guy who's really good at one thing, and he only does that one thing, and then there's 15 to 20 more people who do all the rest of it. Whereas with us, we get a chance to really be the one from start to finish, to make sure that stuff's right. I mean, even down to silly things like that bolts are torqued right, and stickers or labels are put on straight and not, cattywampus, or, that the cables are twisted, by hand as opposed to a machine, or, whatever like that. Because, it actually, we used to do a bit of an assembly line thing, especially at the beginning, just because we really needed to crank out those numbers. But it was mostly, still one guy would build it, and then he'd hand it off to get tested.
Yep.
And then another guy would hand it off, and we'd put it on a burn-in bench and give it its final burn-in. But even then, you're still only talking about two guys, from start to finish. And actually, these days, we really are down to, if you build it, like, for example, it would always been a little bit weird because whoever finished the amp would always get to be the guy who signed the card. And it was always kind of a weird thing because it's like, well, yeah, but now these days, when we have a little bit more time and we're not so quite against the wire, the name on that card, that's the guy who built it. His hands were in it the whole time. Nobody else touched it. He burned in the tubes. He tested the tubes. Everything was assembled and torqued, to specifications.
Wow.
It's kind of cool because it's like, like I said, it's fun that we get to actually sign off on our work, and be like, hey, this is the thing that we did, and I think it really adds that aspect of something that's special. I've talked to people out in the wild, and they're always, if they've ever played a Heritage, they're always like, oh, that's super cool. And I've actually had a couple of people who still have their tag, and my signature is still on that tag, and I'm all like, that's kind of cool, because that'll be, should that amp be around in the next 30, 40, 50 years, and they still keep the tag with it, like, it never changed. Unless it's the amp of Perseus, right? And you've taken it apart and putting all the stuff, but it's basically the same thing that was on my bench however many years ago.
Yeah.
Given the treatment and the time and the dedication to putting it together and making sure that it's a piece of gear that's going to last basically forever. That's what I've always called stuff like that. I mean, it's like there's a reason why we still make the SVT, right? Yeah.
Yep. I mean, that, and I will say, if you do buy a Heritage head, you should keep the tag. Definitely take the tag off. I mean, James signed my 50th back here.
There you go.
I think that's James. And then I signed my my original Heritage CL. At one point when they were being done. What's that? Did I sign it?
No, James
signed yours. I think James signed all the pre-production, or I could be wrong, but mine and yours are pre-production heads. So
yeah, he did a lot of those early ones.
Yeah,
we had a special project that we were doing. It was actually a Line 6 thing right before COVID happened, and I was actually out of town. And so, like, especially those first units, those are definitely all James's handiwork. Oh, and I think Mikey was still with us, so shout out to Mikey if you're watching.
Yeah. Yep. And
they were jamming. They were jamming.
And I signed my own CL, my Heritage CL. Yeah, at one point, like, I would sign off if we had an artist in town. And this was when Hodgie was running Heritage. We'd have an artist come by the factory, and Hodgie would walk him through the process of, this is what we look for. This is what we do. And so there are some SVTs out there signed by Tony Levin. I know there were some signed by Emma Anzai from Sick Puppies. But I think there's more value, and it's just that much cooler when your amp is signed off by the guy that actually built it, the person that actually built it. Like, I had my hands in your amplifier. Like, you're the doctor that gave birth to my kid. You know what I mean? Like that sort of thing versus, you're just the registrar that gave me my birth certificate down in the office sort of thing. What's Dave saying? Did Arthur not build any? I need to have. Okay. So
yeah, little known, I'm actually just the overlord pulling all the puppet strings.
Hey man, that is just as important. And you are the guy that, I will say this, like, Arthur, this, I know Dave knows this and Dom knows this. Like, when I have an artist that needs a Heritage 50th, and you see my email come in, I know you guys kind of go, oh, what does he need now? Like, he's killing me. But you make it happen. Like, there's never been a time that I've had an artist that needed a Heritage 50th and needed it quick that you guys said, nope, can't do it. Like, whatever it takes, you guys always make it happen. So
yeah, that's a bit of our motto in the shop. It's one of those things that's like, we're kind of the only people who can do it, so it's like, eventually it's going to have to be us at some point.
Yeah.
So, and plus it's one of those things, like when you mentioned the Lindas, I love the Lindas. So I was like, this is cool.
Yeah. We're doing. They're getting 2 Heritage 50ths. One is a main amp and one is a back. And Eloise she's been using a V4B for the longest time, and now that they're playing bigger rooms, she needs a beefier amp, and so
a little more oomph.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a question from Cameron. A question for Arthur. What one thing are you most proud of in your time in the Yamaha group? Which is a question I was going to ask you earlier too, but I figured let's get that out.
I would probably have to say, sometimes in the early years, the sheer quantities that we had to make, not just of the heads, but there's a couple of times a year, especially during the start of tour season, there's a lot of demand that comes up around the holidays, so there was a couple of times where, I think an average month for us at the time was maybe like 30 units, and this is heads, cabs, anything, everything, so more or less, like, it equals out to one a day, but the heads have to go through multiple hours of certain things, and I think we did upwards of 120 units, and almost 60 to 70 of those were heads.
Wow.
We were churning them out. We had to actually, because the way that we had the process going is we kind of had the whole team swarm the thing, and we did this big round, and so we had to find out a storage solution to make heads, and so we were setting up these little cubbies and putting some fluff around them and setting them in there after they were all done and dusted, so that way we could come through and just box them all up in one big go.
Wow.
And how we got through that, I'll never know. I'm sure much coffee and many hours of overtime were needed.
Also, like, boxing is not an easy task either.
Not really, no. At least, with 2 guys, it's not too bad, but especially, if you've sentenced a couple of guys to box up the 70 you just built, it's like at the end of the day, it's a little hectic.
Yeah.
Shake after that.
But again, that's and I'll say, the testament to the shop, that's the way you guys kind of you acknowledge and you adapt. Like, you see it coming. Okay, we need to make a shift. We need to do something this way to facilitate the way that we need to get these out.
Totally.
And you put a plan in action, and it happened, and it may not be something that you do every day, but it's like, we got to get these out. So we need to come up with a plan that's going to facilitate this, I
love a good plan, especially when it all works out in the end and you get to look around and be like, guys, we did it.
Yeah. Yep.
It's a great feeling. Like that was a hectic month. I think I was all like, okay, the next like week or two, we'll just take it easy because I think I had burned everyone's wick to the
Yeah.
itty bittiest of nubbins.
Yeah.
But we rallied through, and it's times like that, when you get tough, that the team really kind of comes together too.
Sure.
And even if you've been bumping heads with somebody, the fact that you got to come together and complete a goal, and then really is just like, hey man, that's pat on the backs, high fives all around.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
I have amp techs that, repair techs that they, just as a joke, and I don't mean that, they bitch when you bring them one SVT, and some techs won't work on an SVT because it's just too cumbersome to move around. Like, I won't put an SVT on my bed. Like, they'll bitch when you bring them an SVT because they're so bulky and heavy to move, and you guys are throwing 30 of them around in the course of a month. It's like,
it's amazing.
No,
yeah. These days, it's actually a little easier. Because like I said, we're not switching people so often, and I think it's actually better for the amp because the less the amp has to move, the less chance it has of getting damaged or having something happen to it.
Yeah.
If it sits there nice and pretty and it's sat there the whole time, you build it down the bench, you test it on the bench, you go through the burn-in while it's on the bench, then you just toss it in the box, and that'll always be the hardest part.
Yeah. Now, when you say burn-in, the amp is built. You turn it on, and I'm just, for people that don't understand what burn is. The amp is completed, built, and everything. You're turning it on, letting the tubes burn in, correct?
We turn it on, and we actually run signal through it for 4 hours, essentially to simulate a very long format concert.
Okay.
And basically at concert volume. Luckily, we don't have to have them plugged into actual cabinets and listening to it the whole time. I couldn't imagine concert volume going the whole time. But we got a couple what's called a dummy load, and basically it just acts like a speaker cabinet, and they just sit there, and the only thing you hear is all the fans going.
Okay. Now, are tubes burned in prior to you installing them in the amp as well, or are they just
they do get, before they ever even go into an amp or anywhere near an amp, I should say, they get a 24-hour stress burn-in, which is basically, if it's not gonna even stay on for 24 hours, it's not gonna go in one of our amps.
Yep.
And so that gets, we usually do a round of those every single day. We've always got tubes coming in, and so it's kind of just a daily thing. It's one of the nice things to do in the morning. Just come in with your little cup of coffee and take the tubes off the burn-in bench, populate a whole new one, and we've done a couple of things. It used to be, we had stuff on like timers, and we would have to remember to turn it off and things like that. And we've made a couple innovations. Luckily, James is a wizard when it comes to cobbling together little stuff, and so he made us an auto timer and an auto shut off and a big old green, hey, this is good to go light. And
nice.
So we've always, the core of the test, and the reason why we do all this stuff is always the same, but we do a little advancements. Like you said, we're always constantly evolving. We definitely don't build the amps now the same way that we did back then.
Right. And and you're doing that, you're taking that extra step when the tubes get into you guys. The manufacturers that we're buying the tubes from are also matching them. I don't know if they're necessarily burning them in, but they are matching them.
Yes.
At their facility. And then when they come into us, we match them, burn them in. So there's that like extra step of
can you talk about the matching process a little bit? I'm actually
so we employ what's called a maxi matcher, and basically it just runs the voltage up through the tubes as if it were on, and gives you a readout of the transconductance and the I forget what the other one is called, but basically the status of the tubes, more or less. And so after they go through the 24-hour burn-in, we throw them on the maxi matcher, kick them on, let them sit there for 5 minutes or so to warm up and let the numbers settle down. And we've actually got a big old big old book at this point of, all the handwritten matched sets, that we go through. And so we, write them all down and then analyze the data. And so we match our numbers within 3 points of each other on one of the numbers and a 0.3. So very, very fine tolerances for the tubes they have to go through. But and again, it's just another one of those steps. It's why we're not kicking out as many, and why even building that many heads in one single go is tough. You got 24 hours for every single set of tubes. And
14 tubes, I think, in this one amp. So it's
that's one of the quiz questions. We can't.
Sorry.
Damn it, Dom.
Well, we'll see if they're paying attention.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that helps clarify it for me, because I was always interested in like exactly what that process looks like, and especially like I think a lot of manufacturers probably wouldn't rematch them after them being matched by the manufacturer too. So I'm
right.
glad we
right.
do that.
Now we also. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say we use, we get them from JJ, which is a world-renowned tube manufacturer, and I really like. It's one of those things, more often. Sometimes you're sitting there matching tubes, and you're like, well, of course they're matched. They matched them. But it's one of those things. It's like, but we know now. I know. Yeah. Of course, we trust that they did it. But sometimes you get a Friday special. And and that's why we do it on our end. And we have sets of tubes that still haven't made the cut. Eventually sometimes we'll go around, because I've got all the ratings written down.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes we'll split them all out, and then we'll match them from different sets.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Because if you have one go bad, or somebody slips while putting them in the burning bench, and one of your 6 tubes goes bad, it's not like you can just find the one tube that's going to fit perfectly with that one. You probably could, but so we usually just set all those sets aside, and then eventually we get a rec around them, and then again match them all by hand, re-rate them, repair them.
I gotcha.
Right. Yeah. PAIR.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and it's gotten to the point, like I'll have a lot of artists and end users say, hey, I've got my SVT, it's a 74 SVT, whatever. I want to mess around. I'm thinking of retubing it. And my first question is like, is there anything wrong with the tubes that why do you want to retube it? Because you want to see if you can if there's nothing wrong with the tubes in your amp, do not retube it. Leave it as is until there's not until there's a problem, obviously, because that could get expensive too. But the tube market is just, I don't want to say it's volatile, but wow, was that me that binged?
I think it was probably me.
Yeah, no, it's like, I mean, I've bought, I remember specifically, I bought a new old set of GE 6550s, new old stock, and they were almost as expensive as an SVT at the time. I want to say it was like $1,000 for the set of tubes. Thinking, $1,000, wow, these, I've heard great things about old GE tubes. I'm gonna, and I put them in. The amp sounded great, and within 6 months, one of the tubes went down on me, like went dead. Right. And I was like, and you can't just like stick another tube in its place. You've got to pull the whole set out and put a match set in. And so it's I tell guys, like, don't change tubes unless you absolutely have to, because it is a long, arduous process matching, and that's why we do it at the factory, and so you don't have to deal with it when you get your amplifier.
So, and I mean, in effect, the tubes are the amp. It's really what's giving you the entire feel, ambiance, whatever you want to use to describe the feel of tube amps, is the reason why people have always gravitated towards them.
Absolutely. And that's why people carry an 85-pound amplifier to and from their gigs too, for that same reason.
Quickly address Red the Mustang's questions, because there are a few coming through, and I know Arthur, you had talked about SVT Pro and 7 Pro, and I can't give away too much info, but there was a question of like, would we consider making a new SVT Pro? We absolutely would. We know that when we look at our whole lineup of products, since YGG has taken over Ampeg, we've almost touched like every product line and tried to revamp what needed revamped and not touch what didn't need, touched. But 4 Pro is like my favorite SVT amp. I know that's it's kind of like matched up here with the 50th, but it's an incredible amp, and I absolutely love it. And at the same time, 3 Pro, 4 Pro, those all have some parts that may not be existing even a year or so from now. So that on top of the fact that those are 30-plus-year-old designs, and today's Pro is vastly different from then.
Yeah.
I will say that we are very interested in making a new SVT Pro head. And I will also say that I personally will always want to maintain the hybrid nature of SVT Pro, because that is kind of where it came from.
Yeah.
So I hope that answers enough of your question. And then also on top of that, somebody else asked what's in development. I can't get into specifics on that, but I will say we definitely have products in development, and I'm so excited to talk about them at some point, but I can't. I will say one is highly requested from our customers. That's what I will say.
Yeah, that's all you're gonna say too.
That's the thing. That's all I'm gonna say.
I will point out, and I've said this before. So Ampeg 4 Pro, 3 Pro, SVT obviously are and I'm saying this anecdotally. I think this is true. I could be wrong. If there's anybody out there that has any evidence that I am wrong, please let me know. But the 4 Pro, 3 Pro, and the SVT are the longest production, continuously produced amps, bass amps, maybe guitar amps, I don't know, but I'm going to say bass amps in the bass amplifier industry. The SVT has been being built for 50 some odd years. The 4 Pro, probably, I want to say 25 or at least 25 or 30 years. The 3 Pro, maybe about a little bit longer. So unlike, and I'm just throwing this out there, like Gagnier Kruger, the 800 RB, great amplifier. I don't know many bass players that didn't own an 800 RB. Discontinued. The Harkey, was it the H3500? Great amplifier, discontinued. Like, all these great amps have been discontinued over a certain amount of time, but the 4 Pro, the 3 Pro, and the SVT have continued in continuous production.
Yeah.
To the point now, like Don was saying, manufacturers that we buy components from to build these amps are no longer making those components.
Right.
Because nobody else in any other industry is buying those components except for us to build these 25, 20, 30-year-old designed amps. So, yeah, at some point, as much as we don't want to say goodbye to like a 4 Pro or 3 Pro, because it's still, next to the SVT, a 4 Pro is the most requested head amongst backline and production companies.
We'll definitely keep those going as long as we can.
Yeah. The upside to it is there's literally thousands on the used market.
Yeah.
So if anybody, when anybody comes to me and says, "Hey, where can I get a 4 Pro or 3 Pro?" It's like, go on the used, look in your local classifieds. I guarantee you'll find a 4 Pro or a 3 Pro somewhere.
3 Pro was my first tube amp ever.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, but that's kind of where we're at with this. It's like, if we can't get the parts for it, then we can't build them anymore, So,
right.
We're getting,
onwards and upwards.
Yeah. We're getting close to time here. And,
wow, that went by really fast.
Did we not, like we said, it's like you blink, I almost said it's like my wedding day, but I'm not even going to go there. My wife is upstairs. She can hear me. I'm going to hear stomping on the floor here in a second. So Arthur, you came up with this idea of a quiz.
I did come up with one.
Yeah. So instead of, I don't know, should we do the quiz and the top 10 questions or do the quiz?
Let's do both. I think Arthur.
You want to do both?
Arthur, it's a rite of passage. If he's going to be on SVT time.
Yeah. All right. So let's do the quiz first.
I'm actually using my phone, so I don't have anything there. So if you guys want to,
no, I got it here.
Okay, perfect.
I got it right here. And this is a quiz for our watchers. This isn't for us. We already know the answers. So
that's true.
If you know the answers, I don't know, first person to type in the right answer will get an attaboy. I don't know. We'll figure out some sort of quick gift. But how many hours for tube burn-in? Multiple choice. A, 10 hours, B, 13 hours, C, 64 hours, or D, 24 hours. And we'll leave it there.
We need a Jeopardy.
Yeah.
Little
yeah, right.
I know.
You get an SVT and you get an SVT.
Yeah, right. Everybody gets an SVT. Dave's gonna love me after this one. Read the Mustang, got it right. D, 24 hours.
Correct. Dave's got it too.
Dave's got it too. Okay.
Nah, that's cheating. Dave's a cheater.
No, it isn't Dave Murphy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if it was Murphy, I'd say, unless he changed his name. But let's see. How many hours for playtest burn-in? Multiple choice. 2 hours.
We only said it once, so let's see if people were paying attention.
So for tube burn-in, for playtest burn-in, 2 hours, A, 2 hours, B, 4 hours, C, 10 hours, or D, 24 hours. For tube, for play test burn-in.
I know it's a signal, but I wish you guys just pumped through like a flea baseline or something like that. Like that was the test signal.
So, funny story, and Haji will attest to this. When they were doing this back when Haji was running Heritage, I had to come up with, I think it was like 4 or 6 different baselines, wave files that they could pump into the testing room. So that
may still be what we're using.
Oh yeah.
I don't know who recorded those files, but they used to be on kids what's called a CD.
That was me.
and we played it through that. We have since upgraded to, which is now still a defunct and extinct technology, which is an MP3 player. But it is still, if those are your tracks, you are still the playtest king.
It's the Dino solo CD. So
sine wave through there. That's great.
What's funny is there's this one track that is basically, it's based off of a song called Lady Evil off of Black Sabbath Heaven and Hell album. And I guess that was the track that they always played. So I was out there one day in the warehouse and I started playing that riff. And I think Haji and Zane Williams, the product manager at the time, and Scott, they almost beat me over the head. They're like, do not
again,
play that.
Not again.
Like, do not play that lick. And I was like, why? And then they told me the story. It's like, we hear that lick 24 hours a day.
That's amazing.
It's almost like a torture test now. So Haji, I'm assuming I'm right on that, but yeah.
Well, now all the things that are signed off by Dino, that's true. You did play through those amps.
Yeah, no, I did not.
I'll catch myself humming them sometimes. We're just walking around the warehouse. I'm like, yeah.
So that
is that the one?
No, the other. I'm not gonna play it, but it's that's based off. Yep. Exactly. That's based off of a Black Sabbath tune.
Amazing.
So anyways, Dave McQuan, you're right. 4 hours. So Red is right and Dave is right.
4 hours of Dino on each amp.
4 hours. Yep. So
right.
Here's a question. I don't know if anybody knows this, but how many Heritage 50ths have shipped to date?
Mm-hmm.
And
we should do the closest without going over. Price is Right rules.
Let's do the closest without going over. So it could be 10, it could be 20, it could be 500, it could be 1,000. Mm-hmm. And Arthur, I know
I have the number.
Yeah,
I do.
So
that's the music.
We'll wait for everybody's questions here, and then the last question is from who grinds Dave Murphy, our fearless leader. What is Dave's actual title? He's like the Grand Poobah of logistics or something. Like
master of cardboard sciences.
So, Dave is the guy that and Arthur as well, that I probably owe, I don't know, barrels and barrels and barrels of all sorts of whiskey and adult beverages to for all that you guys do. Who grinds Dave's gears every week with something bizarre that needs to happen, or someplace on the other side of the world that needs an overnight head shipped to? Is it A, Dino Monoxylus, B, Dino the Ampeg guy, or C, just Dino? Thank you, Dave.
Or D.
Or D, all of the above.
Yes.
And Dave, Director of Logistics and Distribution. So
there you go.
And I will say he's one of the guys that when I go to, it's one of those, the show must go on and whatever it takes. And if I'm not mistaken, Dave's on vacation right now and he's still calling in.
Nice.
Anyways, so we have Red is guessing 67. Dave is guessing 1200. And do we have anybody else that is guessing?
Should definitely
that's it so far. We'll wait for a couple more answers here before Arthur divulges the
math of how many.
Yeah, Dom, I could see the wheels burning in Dom's head right now. So on top of this, Arthur, we also, I'm sure you know about our top 10 that has kind of grown into top 12 quick fire questions that we ask everybody that comes on the show.
Yes.
So, and of course, once again, I can't find it.
Always at the moment of need.
It's always at the moment of, oh, here it is. So I'll ask, it's 13 questions now, and we'll answer as quickly and as best as you can.
Okay.
So your question number 1, P bass or jazz bass?
Jazz bass.
Question number 2, passive or active?
Passive.
Okay. 3, rounds or flats?
Rounds, definitely.
Wow. Okay. Number 4, I think I know the answer to this one. B15, SVT, or Pro Series?
If I have to say Pro Series because it's been tried and true for a very long time, and also I haven't forked out the money for my own SVT yet.
I'm
sorry. I'm disappointing everybody right now. The SVT guy doesn't even own one.
No, that's all right. I think I know a guy though. Yeah. It's just because every time you build one, you feel the need to give it to somebody like me.
Right. That's right. It's like a chef in that way, right?
Right. Exactly. You don't do your own cooking when you get home.
Or if we do, it's a bag of Doritos and corn dogs.
Yeah, right. Yep. Walking tacos.
There you go.
Cable or wireless?
Oh, cable. I don't trust myself.
Yep. Pick or fingers?
Fingers.
Nice. IEMs or floor wedges?
Ooh, I have never once played with IEM, so I'm gonna have to go with wedges because that's what I know.
Okay,
nice.
That's totally fine. Pedals or no pedals?
Historically, I have always been a no pedal person, but lately, I love my SCRDI and I love my Optocomp.
Yeah.
And so I will have to say that minimalistic, but yes, definitely a couple of pedals.
That's okay. Absolutely. When traveling, do you prefer aisle or window?
Ooh, aisle. Because if I got to go pee, I'm not pushing past anybody.
There you go.
That's the trick.
High bunk or low bunk or middle bunk? And this kind of pertains to the same thing.
Oh, well, I was always the top bunk with my little brother when we were growing up, so I'm going to have to say top bunk.
There you go. Okay. All right.
I love that question. That's great.
Black with white piping or silver and blue? Or heritage, for that matter.
I do like the black sparkle. I will have to go silver and blue. There is a there is a soft spot for that blue diamond Tolex with the silver grill in my heart.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Are you hot chocolate or coffee?
Oh, I hope that wasn't me.
Do you prefer hot chocolate or coffee?
Coffee.
Spoken like a true New Yorker.
My grandma's from New York. She would always say it like that. Coffee and orange juice.
Yeah, it's being from Boston, everybody thinks I say coffee. We don't say coffee here. We say coffee. Coffee. Favorite place to eat on the road when you're traveling?
My wife's gonna be mad at me for this, but I'm a sucker for Taco Bell.
Really? Yeah.
Gotta say it.
Really?
I am.
Okay. Wow. Are you a little upset that they're making chicken wraps now instead of?
I love how they're trying so hard to make it a thing. They really are. They're hoping that whatever that commercial with the guy who's baffled by it, they're hoping that that's everyone's reaction. And I think they're probably right.
Exactly.
I think if anyone knows their customer base, I think Taco Bell does there.
Yeah. It's like, come on, don't fool us. Don't try and tell us it's health food.
Don't kid a kidder, man.
Right. Okay. So
I'm gonna put in my number.
You're going to put in your number, Dom?
I'm going to guess 3,200.
Okay.
3,200. Wow, this is like Price is Right. Let's see who's overbid.
$1, Bob.
So yeah.
I mean, Drew. Sorry for the modern people.
So, Red's saying 67. Dave is saying 1,200. And Dom, how many are you saying? 32.
160. I'm saying 3,200.
3,200. And we're closing bidding right now. Arthur, what is the actual number? Who's closest?
So as of this morning, about 2 hours ago, we are at 1,254. SVT 50th.
SVT 50th.
Mm-hmm.
So Dave McQuan, you are like 54 units.
Wow.
You're the closest. Wow.
The price is right.
Yeah. So
he gets an SVT?
No.
There you go.
No. No.
I wasn't talking. He gets an SVT sticker.
No, not even that. Let's do a t-shirt. How's it?
Yeah.
How about an Ampeg t-shirt? So Dave read
Dave said that there's 1,253 that you asked to ship overnight.
Dave, what would you do without me? Come on now. I keep this exciting, Sure. Hey, anybody, I'm not going to say it right. I almost brought up the concert that happened. I'm going to talk about this here in a second on a very serious note, but before we do that, Dave, what would you do without me? Like, where would all these SVTs go? You would be bored. So
probably the Mariana Trench.
Arthur, man, I cannot thank you enough for coming on. And again, this is like, we have artists on. Sometimes it's just Dom and I talking about gear and stuff. We want to do more of these. We had Sam and Ryan on a couple of months ago. We want to, you coming on today. We want to present more people that work on Ampeg, that work at Ampeg, to put faces with the name. So, when you're looking at an Ampeg amp, or you're purchasing an amp, or you're considering an amp, that there's real people. Not that, of course, every amp company has real people, but we want to introduce everybody to the family, if you will. This is the Ampeg family. These are the guys that build your amps, that design them, that that make sure they're on every stage. Like, I mean, it's. I almost said give them away, but I don't give a lot of amps away. I really don't. And quite honestly, for anybody that's watching this, I say give them away jokingly. Our artists do pay for their amps. There's no question about that. So we do offer discounts because they are in the artist program, and they do a lot for us in return, like coming on SVT time and But I say giving them away jokingly. What I really mean is, we do accommodations. But no, seriously, thank you for coming on. Maybe, when we hit that, I don't know, 3,000 mark, 5,000 mark on Heritage amps, hopefully that'll be in the next year or so. But man, thank you so much for coming on. Anybody like Dave and Red, like I said, I owe you guys t-shirts, and Arthur, I owe you a t-shirt too. I will get you a t-shirt. I'll get your size.
Cool, yeah.
Red and Dave, we'll have to figure out a way that we can get your information. If you want to just find me on Facebook or Instagram and just DM me your private information, and and your size, your shirt size. I'll figure out a way to get a t-shirt out to you guys for answering. And I know that I know, you know what, this is opening a can of worms, because I know Paul and Rachel are going to be like, hey, wait a second, we've called in every single one of these episodes. So Paul, Rachel, send me your information. I'm feeling really generous today. I'm not giving SVTs away.
Slide into Dino's DMs.
Slide into my DMs.
Right,
you guys have been fantastic. Everybody gets a t-shirt today. On a more somber note, and I know I'm going to lose it when I say this. This came in at the beginning of the broadcast, and I didn't want to say anything because I know I would physically and emotionally just kind of break down, which I'm starting to do right now. But it has come to our attention that Ozzy Osbourne has passed away. And yeah, it's he just did it's amazing, because dude, if there's any way that any one of us would want to go out in style, he did.
How cool was that concert?
There's not a concert that I can remember, and I didn't even experience it firsthand, that went beyond the hype of the caliber of what it was going to be.
Yeah.
It was just unbelievably epic in every way.
Yeah. Yeah. So cool. I will say, not only was, I grew up listening to Ozzy and Sabbath. Geezer was a huge influence on my playing at the very beginning. It was, I hate the music of my childhood, Black Sabbath was, but not only just that, there is a list of our artists that are in the Ampeg family that got their start with Ozzy as well. And my heart and prayers and soul go out to those guys as well. Randy, Mike Inez, they were just over there in support of the concert. So it's kind of it's a surprise, because obviously we saw him a couple of weeks ago and he was in good spirits, and now to see this news. So anyways, my prayers go out to the Osbourne family and the Ampeg family and anybody that has been associated with Ozzy. So I don't want to leave on a downer note. So thank you all for chiming in, and we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. And Arthur, once again, thank you so much for coming on. Haji, thanks for being in the background there. And Aaron, of course, for putting this whole thing together. I'm still I'm a little, my thoughts are all over the place right now, but thank you, everyone. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
And Dino,
thanks, guys.